it's Karen Burniston here with my monthly Designer Challenge video. The theme this month is to use one of our two tag book dies. I'll be using the original tag book die, but I'm going to double the height of it. So that's a fun technique, easy to do. You can see how generic this is. I decided to make mine a picture wall and decorate it using our Gnome and Santa set. For the card, I've cut a piece of cardstock to 11 inches wide by 5 inches tall and then scored that in the middle for folding. So that creates a side fold card that is 5.5 inches wide by 5 inches tall. Now I am using a 1/2 inch corner rounder on that card, a corner chomper, but if you didn't have such a thing and you wanted to round your corners, you could just use the edge of the tag book die as a template. Okay, so corners rounded, I'm going to set my card aside and work on my insert. I've cut 2 pieces of pattern paper to 7 inches wide by 6 inches tall, and then I want to fold that in half so that I have a 3 by 7 piece with a fold in the middle. This is Cardabella paper. It's pretty thick, so I'm using a bone folder to help me get a good fold. Okay, out of the tag book die set, I'm using the mechanism die, and what I want to do is place the fold of one of my pieces just right underneath the upper line that cuts the interior part of the pop-up so that it won't cut and it'll just double on that line. So I'm using temporary tape to hold that in place, and then I'm just going to run that through my die cutting machine. You can use any die cutting machine that can accommodate a wafer thin die, and today I'm using my Spellbinders Platinum 6. Okay, so discarding all the excess paper, I don't need it, and if any of the paper is trapped in the holes or the little triangle part at the bottom, just go ahead and poke that out. So that's 1/2 of my mechanism. Now I need to repeat that for the other side. So I take a look to which way I lined it up for the first one, and I turn and flip the die over, so I'm lining it up on the other edge now. So same exact location, just the fold just underneath where the tag and square end, so it won't cut that top edge, and then make sure that it's straight, make sure that it's taped down really well with temporary tape, and then run that through my die cutting machine. Okay, once again, getting rid of the excess paper, emptying out the holes and the little triangles that they've left paper in them. And now what I have is 2 pieces where the tabs are opposite each other on the interior. That's why I wanted to flip the die between the 2 cuts, so that just like with a single tag book, the tabs are opposite each other. Now it's a little imperfect because of course you've doubled it and maybe one side wasn't exactly the same distance from the fold as the other. So what I like to do is put them face to face, in this case wood grain to wood grain, and make sure that my interior little rounded tags line up really well because I'm going to see those stacked on top of each other in the closed position. And then keeping this together like this, now I can work the tabs in the center to connect the 2 halves together. So the 2 wood grain tabs that I can see, I can add a strong adhesive to those. I'm using my LINECO neutral pH adhesive in my fine tip bottle. Fold those over and press them down. Then I can flip the entire piece over, which gives me access to the other 2 wood grain tabs, work those folds, add my glue, and then fold those over and press them to the other side. Okay, and then opening that up, I've connected the 2 halves together. It's just a double high version of the regular tag book, so training it's going to be just like if I had a single tag book. So to do that, I find the area that's between the square and the tag, and there's a fold that goes all the way across the entire piece. So I'm going to work that on both halves, so between the square and the tag, all the way across the entire piece. Opening it back out to flat again, I'm going to reverse those folds in the middle between the squares and the tags, because eventually those will be valley folds. Okay, out here on the side, there is a little fold. It's about halfway through the tag. You can see it real well on one side where the die is cut into it. You'll only be able to feel it on the other side, but that should be easy to do. If you find the one where it's pressed in, you can see it. Then start folding it over straight on that line. You'll feel it on the other side, and it should be straight, so that helps as well, just making sure that it's a straight fold. Okay, so that was just about finding those folds, but now I need to take those outer sections and put them behind the inner tags. So just putting them back out to flat and then making sure that the tags are in front. Then I can reverse the fold on the arms, in the middle of the arms, so that it's coming up as a mountain. And then I can work those little pivot points in the center of the tags. And then one way to train the tag book is to turn it sideways, find the first fold, start bringing everything forward. It'll just start kind of collapsing on itself. There's one half trained, and then same thing on the other side. So the long arms are going to kind of want to fold at the pivot point that's in the middle of the tag, but you just have to kind of make sure that it stays straight and then fold it down until you get that tag book shape. For my card design, I am going to see the back of the tags when the card is closed. And since I've used double-sided pattern paper, the back of the paper is not going to fit my color scheme. So I have to use the mechanism again to isolate just the tag section, and then I'm going to glue that to the back of the interior one so that when the card is closed, you'll see wood grain. Before I put this inside the card, now is a good time to be able to hit any edges that I want to add some brown ink to. Now I'm ready to add my tag book, my double high tag book, to my card. So I just need to add my strong adhesive out on the end to all the flat parts. So the part at the fold and then out to the end. So stopping when I get to the first fold. And then I'm going to just line that up with the card so that I just leave a tiny little bit of a brown shadow around the outside. Then I'm going to collapse everything down into the closed position, and then I'll add my strong adhesive to all of these flat parts on the other side, and then close the card against the exposed adhesive. Okay, there it is, my double high tag book insert for a card, and now it is ready for decorating. There is a decorator tag and a decorator square piece in the set, and I've cut those for every panel out of a different wood grain so that I'll have a little bit of interesting contrast to my wood wall. On the tag pieces, I just line up the holes, and then it will leave a little shadow all the way around. And then for the square pieces, it's just a matter of centering it in each panel. So the tag book die includes those decorator pieces, and then it also has a die that will cut the reinforcing and decorator pieces for the arms themselves. And especially for the long ones, your best bet is to add the adhesive to the arm itself so that you can avoid the pivot point. And then take one of those long arm pieces, it's slightly tapered to fit and leave a little bit of a shadow all the way around. I decided to just do it out of the same wood grain so that it would mostly disappear. Don't skip adding those pieces though, especially the long ones. They really are needed to stiffen up those long arms. Oftentimes they'll try and fold at the pivot point until you add those long decorator pieces, and then they get nice and straight again. Okay, for my decoration, I decided the background of my picture frames was going to be a sky-grass combo. So I'm making a piece of two-tone paper, blue on the top, green on the bottom. Now I'll use that two-tone piece of paper to cut the backing rectangle from the Slim Frame set and the backing rectangle from the Memory Charm set. And I'm going to do 3 of the large frame and 6 of the small. Okay, starting with the small frames from the Memory Frame set, I've cut the picture frame itself out of both brown and white. Then I cut the hanger off the white one so that when I overlay it over the top of the brown, I have a white frame with a brown picture hanger. And I also brushed a little bit of brown ink around the white frame. And then you can see how that's going to look. Now for the taller frames, the ones cut out of the Slim Frames, I also cut them out of both brown and white and glued them over the top. Those ones don't come with a picture hanger. But one way to add a little extra detail to the tall frames would be to take the stitched rectangle from the set and just temporarily tape that in place so that it's centered, and then run it through your machine with an embossing sandwich instead of a cutting sandwich. And then what that will do is press the die down into the piece and add those details without adding any bulk. I'm only using adhesive along the top edge when I add the large pieces behind the frames. And that way I can still get between the layers if I want to, say, have the gnome partially covered by the frame. The tag book set includes a die that will cut 2 matching hole protectors that will fit the small tag. I've cut that out of that light wood grain for the tags that are on the outside of the card, and then on the inside I used a dark brown. There's a decorative border in the tag book set that works great for braids when you want to make a girl gnome using our Gnome and Santa set. The face die includes a stencil feature. And so when you're making the gnome or the Santa in the usual manner, you just leave the paper in the die and use a black pen through the stencil feature to add the face. For a girl gnome, you don't want the boxy part at the bottom. You want it at the top, and you want the rounded chin at the bottom. So then after die cutting, take the die, flip it over, and just line it up with the top of the square edge. And then you can use that as a stencil to add the face for the girl gnome. I've chosen a color for the hair, and then I've put some double-sided adhesive on the back of that cardstock before die cutting so that these borders will be stickers. I find that having it be a sticker just makes it a little bit easier to do this process, but if you didn't have that double-sided tape, you could always just use glue. So I'm cutting the border in half, approximately. I think there's one extra oval when you cut it in half. And then I just connect them at the top and then twist one around the other. And then when I get to the bottom, I can cut off that extra oval. And then to add some texture and dimension, I'll just brush a little bit of brown ink over the braid. The Gnome and Santa set includes a little bow with a ribbon attached for the present, but that works great in the braids as well. Just cut off the ribbon. I used a colored pencil for rosy cheeks and then just added the large nose out of the Gnome set, brushing it with a little ink. So the braids actually cover the end of the sleeves, which means it's possible to actually trim off one of the arms and then cut a second one of the same arm, the one on the other side, and then that can be reversed to make her waving. So completely optional, but just kind of a fun look. All right, she is done, and I am going to tuck her a little bit under the frame as I glue her into this one, so I'm glad I only attached that frame on the top edge. I decided that enamel dots would work great as faux nails, so I'm adding one to each of the small picture frames. And I just used decorator pieces out of the sets I was already using to fill the frames. So the mushroom comes with the Gnome and Santa, the wider heart that I doubled comes out of the tag book, and the taller heart comes out of the slim frames. And then there's a paper clip die in the tag book as well, so I used that to kind of paper clip the heart to my spot where I'll write my personal greeting. Now the only die that I had to go out of those sets for was the greeting. I chose the Script Hello out of our new Waterfall card die set. And while I was making gnomes and filling frames, I just went ahead and made a set of 3 for the front of the card. I decided to add a panel of paper to the back of the card just to kind of balance the weight of it so it would feel pretty even since I was decorating the front. My favorite way to make card fronts is just to kind of mimic the colors and materials that I used for the inside. So in this case, just taking the decorator square out of the tag book and cutting a bunch of them that I can use to make a mosaic on the front of the card. So then the same border that I used on the inside, so that comes with the tag book. And then after adding my frames, I'll do the same enamel dot nails. And for both the front and the back pieces, I cut them just a little bit smaller than the size of the card and then rounded the corners with that same 1/2-inch corner rounder. I chose 4 different colors of baker's twine to tie little bows through the tags. The tags add width to my card, so the finished card is actually 5x6, but that will still fit in an A7 envelope for mailing. It definitely has some thickness to it, especially because I used 2 layers on every frame. But with some extra postage, that will go through the mail just fine. The double high tag book technique is very generic. That could be decorated for any season or occasion. And if you like the look of the picture wall, think about putting actual photographs behind the frames. That would look lovely and make it a great personalized card. Check the description box below this YouTube video for supply links as well as a link to the blog post. And on the blog post, you will find photographs of my card as well as links to all of the cards made by our talented design team. Thanks for watching. If you click on the website link, you'll go to KarenBurniston.com where you can find out information about purchasing these dies as well as links to all my other social media accounts. You can subscribe to this YouTube channel and check out some of my other videos. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.